Hi guys, Miss Warren here, and I am going to talk to you in assignment 41 here about cell types. The two types of cells we're going to talk about are eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Eukaryotes is pronounced like you over there carry the oats to make oatmeal. You carry oats. And prokaryotes is like, oh no, we need professionals, to carry the oats for the oatmeal. So eukaryotes, prokaryotes. So I'd like you to look at this very simple cell here and think about what parts are you seeing in that cell. Okay, it has the four main parts that we've learned about. If you thought about it, you should have seen DNA. Sometimes you'll see an alternative called RNA. You'll see cytoplasm, which is the light blue stuff filling up the cell, the cell membrane, which is the wrapping around the cell, and ribosomes, which are the little protein factories. Okay, this kind of cell is what we call a prokaryote. Okay, so prokaryote right here is a small, simple cell. It has DNA, it has ribosomes, it has cytoplasm and a cell membrane, but it doesn't have all of these other things that we've been talking about. Okay, eukaryotes are very large cells, much larger than prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are pretty small, and that's important. Because if you're a big cell, you have to be organized and you have to have structure. Think about like a big city has to have roads and streets and neighborhoods, whereas a small little town might just have a couple of roads and not even a lot of services or anything like that. Okay, eukaryotes have all of these organelles in them. Prokaryotes have a very simple structure. So I'd like you to take some notes in your science notebook on eukaryotes and prokaryotes. And just to shorten it, I'm going to call them Eus and pros. And we'll take two-column notes. On the left-hand side, you're going to write notes about eukaryotes. And since this is a versus, on the right-hand side, you're going to write notes about prokaryotes. Okay. These are the important things that you need to know. Eukaryotes are bigger, and if it's in blue, it's something that you should write down. They are bigger. They're things like animal and plant cells. There's also some fungus and protists that are in this category. They do have a nucleus. They are more complex, and they do have membrane-bound organelles. So you can remember eu rhymes with do. So eukaryotes do have all these things. Okay, prokaryotes, which are basically just bacteria, are small. They're about the size of an organelle in a cell. They do not have a nucleus. They are less complex, and they do not have membrane-bound organelles like the Golgi body, the mitochondria, the chloroplast, the vacuole, nothing with a membrane around it. So remember, pro equals no. So pros don't have all the structure and all the special organelles. Okay, I'd like you to try and make a Venn diagram of a eukaryote versus a prokaryote. So from the last slide, you should be able to fill in some of the things on the left and on the right, some of the things that are different. But I also want you to go back to the beginning of this presentation if you need to, and fill out what's the same. What is the same for eukaryotes and prokaryotes? And that goes in this center part right here. Go ahead and pause this slide or pause this video on this slide so that you can fill this out. If you think you have it, check it with me and I will give you a stamp or point out some things that you need to fix. Okay. Just to give you some more perspective, now that you've thought about the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, we're going to talk a little bit more about prokaryotes because we haven't talked about them a lot. So an everyday word for prokaryote is bacteria. If you hear prokaryote, think bacteria. If you hear bacteria, think prokaryote. They're really synonyms. Okay. They are not viruses. Viruses are much smaller. So bacteria is an actual cell with a cell membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and DNA. Virus is much, much smaller, and it doesn't have a cell membrane or cytoplasm. Sometimes it doesn't even have DNA, and it definitely doesn't have ribosomes. So a virus is not a bacteria. It's something different. We'll learn more about those later in the week. Okay. There are good bacteria and bad bacteria, believe it or not. Some of them are very helpful to us. Some of them cause disease, and a lot of them just don't really affect us one way or another. Okay. One good bacteria is the bacteria that we use to turn milk into yogurt. It's called Streptococcus thermophilus, and there's a picture of it. Each of these little orange bundles here is a single bacterial cell. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, several cells here, and they grow in this long line, which is called Streptococcus. Okay. Another good bacteria is called Enterococcus faecalis. This is a bacteria that lives in your gut, and it helps you digest your food. If you didn't have this bacteria in your gut, you would have a lot of trouble getting your nutrition out of your food. We actually think there's a whole bunch of different species of bacteria that live in our gut and help us digest our food. Okay, a bad bacteria that you may be familiar with is called strep throat. Okay, at least the disease is called strep throat. It's called by Streptococcus pyogenes, and again, here's the bacterial cells. Each little bubble is a single cell of Streptococcus pyogenes, and they tend to grow in colonies on your tonsils in the back of your throat, and it causes inflammation and swelling, and that's why it's bad. So that's a disease that's caused by a bacteria, so that's bad bacteria. Whooping cough is also caused by bacteria. This is an actual picture through a microscope at 1,000 times bigger than real life of the Bordetella disease. Notice the cells are a little bit different shape here, but you can see the individual bacterial cells that cause whooping cough or pertussis. There are some extreme bacteria out there. They don't tend to affect us at all, but they can live in some pretty amazing environments. They can live in the hot springs in Yellowstone. They can live deep in the ocean next to volcanic vents that are spewing out hot water. They can live in really salty or really cold environments, and they're called archaebacteria, and that's another kind of prokaryote. In fact, all of the plants, animals, fungus, everything are in the eukaryote group. And then there are two groups of prokaryotes. There's bacteria and archaea that are all prokaryotes. So we actually think most of the life on this planet are prokaryotes, or a type of bacteria. Okay, and just for fun, how many types of bacteria do you see in this picture? There are three main shapes, three main types of bacteria. But then based on the chemical reactions that they perform in their DNA or RNA, we can identify them in much smaller groups called species. But based on their shapes, they're grouped into broad-shaped, sphere-shaped, or spiral-shaped bacteria. Now, it's just a little preview of prokaryotes, or bacteria. I want you to think about why this is important for our cell survivor. Why is it important that bacteria and archaea only have 4 cell parts, and all of the organelles that we've been studying are only found in these eukaryotic cells over here, 1/3 of the living things on the planet, actually less than 1/3 if you count them. Okay, when you're done with your notes and this video, you may use your notes to take the quiz that is attached to this video.